and I'm going to record y'all. Like I said, it's going to be uploaded to my YouTube channel hopefully before the end of the day is out. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some things I believe are going to be vital to your success in life. How many of you guys have participated in career days at your high school? They don't have career days at your school? Oh, okay. Okay. And, you know, a lot of middle schools have been contacting me. They've been having, I say, man, in middle school you're talking about career days? I mean, let a kid be a kid for a minute at least. Yeah, they're catching them early. But a lot of times in career days, I've been asked a lot of times when I participate in career day events, because normally it's about 30, 40, 50 speakers at the career day events, and we're spread out all throughout the schools. And I've been asked a lot of times, why do the students gravitate and enjoy my talk so much? And I'm not bragging on myself. But a lot of times what most career day speakers will come in and do is they'll talk about their particular profession. And if you're not going into that profession, you don't care about what they talked about, right? You just get stuck in a classroom and somebody comes in, you know, say it's a police officer. I mean, it's exciting in the beginning when they talk about, you know, the stuff they deal with on a daily basis. But it's not exciting after a few minutes if you're not interested in that profession, right? And so you're bored, you know, you're doing whatever, you know, you're twiddling your thumbs, you know, trying to stay awoke and, you know, dealing with things like that. And what I do is I talk about things that it's going to require for you to be successful in whatever endeavor you pursue. Be it you want to be an athlete, be it you want to be an employee, be it you want to be a business owner or entrepreneur. What I talk about is going to be universal across all those spectrums. And, you know, so I'm not saying I'm great at anything. I've just come across some great information, and I've had some great men and women come into my life that have helped me along the way. And, you know, the biggest thing I think is determines our success and how far we go in life is our attitude. How many of you know people with bad attitudes? How many of you go to school with people on a daily basis that come to school with bad attitudes? How many of you are that person? That's always a trick question. You know, I don't want you to answer it, but, you know, just something to think about. You know, a lot of times people will say, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Well, how about you wake up on the right side of the bed for a change? You know, I remember growing up, you know, I would see people, you know, that I know, a lot of times friends and family, you know, they have bad attitudes. And as a young person growing up, you know, you see people with bad attitudes, and you have this thought in your mind that as we get older, their attitude is going to improve, right? Wrong. The attitude gets worse. And the only reason I'm sitting down is, like I mentioned, I have had surgery on my feet, so I have my cane back here, so I can't stand up long periods of time. So, you know, if you can't hear me, just let me know, and I'll, you know, try to make it carry a little bit more. But I think it's sufficient in the back. You can hear me, right? Okay. And so, you know, we deal with bad attitudes on a daily basis. And you all know somebody who has bad attitudes. We have people with bad attitudes that in our family, we have people with bad attitudes that we hang out with. I like to be around people with positive attitudes. You know, each one of us has 40 to 50,000 thoughts per day, and over 80% of those thoughts are negative. And that shows you the power of negativity. On average, it takes about 16 positives to come into your life to negate one negative. That just shows you the power of negative. And so we have to make it one of our daily objectives is to be positive all the time. You know, when I was in the hospital, the nurses, every nurse on the floor was coming to my room on a daily basis. And not because I'm great and I have a book in my bag. I always have a book wherever I go. And when I was in the hospital both times, I had books on my little table. And one of the nurses came in, I had a book by Dale Carnegie. And, you know, she got real excited because the very first motivational or positive book she read was by Dale Carnegie. And so all the nurses on the floor were coming to visit my room, even if I wasn't their patient. Because people want to be around people with positive attitudes, right? You know, each one of us want to be around somebody that's an uplifting encourager. You know, we don't want to be around people that's going to beat us down all the time, do we? And, you know, society conditions us to have negative attitudes. Society conditions us to be mediocre. There's a book I read years ago titled Living Above the Level of Mediocrity. And that book changed my whole perspective on looking at life, because society is conditioning us to be just average. And I heard a guy put it this way. He said, if you were sitting on a block of ice in Hawaii and your head was on fire, on average, you'd be okay. Right? So we don't want to go through life just being average. A lot of times we look at people in life and they're just living average lives. You know, society has conditioned us that the only people that can live extraordinary lives are athletes and entertainers, right? You know, and they tell you, you know, how many of you have heard money is the root of all evil? Any of you ever heard that? And see, that statement's all wrong. Money doesn't have any function other than a means of exchange. You know, the love of money is the root of all evil. And see, when people put money above everything else, that's where the problem comes in. But society conditions us to be mediocre. You know, you even have, and I don't know what your spiritual beliefs are, but for me, you'll have people in the church tell you there's a spiritual amount of money you can make. And if you make above that amount, you're immoral. You know, you'll have people like that in your life. And what people like that are doing, they're basically telling you, I'm a slob and I don't want to do anything better with my life. So I want you to be doing nothing with me. And so all of this beats up on our attitude. And I'm going to tell you, do y'all watch the evening news in here? Anybody watch the evening news? Okay, I'm going to tell you how the evening news is going to go the rest of your life, okay? So after the day, you never have to watch the news again. The only difference between 6 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news is 2 more people got killed, okay? So there's no need to watch the news anymore. Nothing else is going to change. The sports is not going to change. You know, there's not going to be anybody, they're not going to come on TV and tell you, you know, this couple, you know, living a great life. They're really in love with each other or anything like that. They're not going to, unless it's your high school sports team that went to the state championship game, you're not going to hear too much positive on the news. News is conditioning us to be negative, because what people do when they look at the news, a lot of times, probably not y'all. Y'all probably just look at the news just because it's a function. But as you become adults, we start looking at the news because we want to see how miserable everybody else is doing. And then when we look at everybody else's misery, we can go to bed knowing their misery is worse than ours. So we actually enjoy seeing other people miserable. So don't watch the news anymore. You know, keep the TV on Sports Center. and so, you know, watch Sports Center. And, you know, occasionally, you know, Sports Center will let you know what's negative going on. You know, how many of y'all saw Carmelo Anthony score 62 points last night? Now, I'm not a fan of Carmelo Anthony, but, you know, I like seeing highlights. How many of you were ready for the Super Bowl? Finally. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you have more athletes. Nobody was ready for the Super Bowl in the last session. I mean, I wanted to choke them. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, we get programmed all the time. We go to class, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of you are fairly decent students in school, right? You know, if you weren't, you wouldn't tell me anyway. But most of you are fairly decent students. But our classmates ridicule us for, you know, making C's and D's and an occasional F every now and then. I was an honor student in high school. I was ridiculed because my classmates always called me the dummy of the honor students. And you know why? It's because I've always been a reader. I've been checking out books from the library since I was 5 years old. I didn't even ask my mother could I go one day, and I just went on my own. But in high school, I found subjects that were interesting to me. And so I would go to the library and I would check out books, and then I would read those books, and then I would come to school and I would have different discussions with my teachers on the stuff they were teaching us in class. And so my teachers didn't like that. And because I challenged it, it made the rest of my classmates uncomfortable, because they said, you know, Myron, the book, it says it right here in the book. Why are you saying what you say? You know, you're wrong. And I said, no, you know, I'm not wrong. You know, study some of the stuff I'm studying. And so my classmates always talked about me. In my memory book right now, one of my honor student classmates wrote in my memory book, well, I hope you're a better student in college than you were in high school. I mean, that's the type of stuff in my memory book. I mean, can you imagine somebody writing something like that in your memory book? And I mean, that memory book's in the attic. I just happen to remember it because don't we tend to remember the negative stuff? You know, negative hurts. And so, you know, if you're an athlete and you make a bad play one time, all the good plays you made up until that point are negated because your coach makes you feel bad and your teammates make you feel bad, right? And that's not what life is all about. And so we're conditioned to be negative. And we don't have enough positivity in our lives. Like I mentioned, 21 positives have to negate one negative, anywhere from 16 to 21. That just shows you the power of negative. The weather person on TV is even negative. Have y'all recognized that? And I'm going to show you how. The weather person will come on TV and tell us tomorrow there's a 20% chance of rain. Well, why didn't they tell you it was an 80% chance of sun? Yeah, have you ever thought? It gives you something to think about, right? And rain is not negative, but what is our attitude when it rains outside? Or it's going to be a dreary day. It's going to be a gloomy looking day, right? And rain is not negative. Our grass and our vegetation and all that need the rain. But it also needs more sun than rain because too much rain is going to kill it. But we tend to think negative. I mean, what would an attitude, and I know y'all in high school, but what was your attitude when the weather person said it's possible going to be ice on the road Friday morning? Y'all saying, good, I ain't got to go to school. I know that's what y'all probably saying. But what are your thoughts when you hear stuff like that? They said it on Sunday. Why they need to say it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday up until Friday? And that just shows you how negative they are. They'll come on TV on Sunday night and give you a 7-day forecast, right? Why do they need to work the other 6 days if they knew what they were talking about? Something to think about, right? So they're conditioning you to be negative. I wasn't thinking about the ice, I'm like, okay, whatever. How many of you saw the Michael Berry clip where he was talking about snow in Houston? Any of you saw that? Well, it was showing all these pictures of snow. And it was talking about snow in Houston. Then he started showing video clips of how it actually looked in Houston. And it's totally contrary to what, we go out when it gets cold here. You want to see cold? I went to visit my baby sister in Seattle. And it gets cold up there in the winter. And my baby sister, her blood has gotten thick since she's been up there. Well, our blood is thin because we live down here. And at night, during the daytime, 35 degrees with the sun shining, it's a beautiful day. At night, when the temperature drops and it's cold, it's not the time to be sleeping with your windows open. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And that's how she was sleeping because she's conditioned. She's used to that type of weather now, and we're not used to it. But we get so used to negative in society. And when we're so used to the negative, we start to lower our expectations. Our self-image starts to suffer. And when I talk about expectations, I like to think about this story I read about a guy. He was about 30 years old. And he felt life hadn't been treating him fairly. He felt like he had been working hard up to that point, and life just hadn't rewarded him like he thought it should. And he went to a carnival one day and he saw a sign that said, "Fortune's red, $10. And so he said, well, what have I got to lose? Let me go get a lady $10 and see what she tells me. And so she starts telling him, she said, well, you're age 30 now. She said, well, up until age 45, you're going to be broke and disgusted and despondent. And so he got up from the table and he started head toward the door with his head hung low. And then a light bulb went off in his head. He said, well, she said that's going to be up until age 45. Excuse me. So he turned around and he goes back to her and say, well, you said up until age 45. What's going to happen at age 45? She said, oh, you'll be used to it. And if you look at a lot of people in life, they've gotten used to their situation, right? I mean, and I don't know, I don't know if your parents, but you can see somebody in your family that have just gotten used to where they are in life, right? You can see older folks in your neighborhood who've just gotten used to their situation and their position in life. I mean, life is meant to be enjoyed. You should wake up every day wanting to go after something new. And our attitudes reflect our expectations. Our attitudes show what we think about ourselves. Our attitude is a big reflection of our self-image. I enjoy every time I'm contacted to come speak to FBLA because I get to see guys, young people dressed up. I mean, that does a lot of good for my spirit because you guys are the future business leaders of America. And without you guys, there's not much hope. But I don't like seeing guys walking around with their pants hanging down. And I went to the grocery store the other day and I saw a lady come out the store with her pajama pants and a house coat on. That's a sign of a poor self-image and laziness. So if you're coming out of your house like that, can you attract any positive people into your life dressed like that? No. Suppose you were looking for an opportunity to do better, but you come out of your house dressed like that. Somebody could pass by you that had an opportunity for you, but because of the way you present yourself, they say, I don't want this person to represent me or what I stand for. So your attitude is a big reflection on how you look when you leave out of your house. Right now, my attitude is I need to lose some weight. Since I've had 3 surgeries the last 2 years on my feet. And since the first surgery, I weighed 209 pounds. I weigh 280 now. And so and the doctor's talking about possibly having to do a surgery again. And so I set a goal for myself. When I'm able to really walk again, I got to get this weight back off me. Because I don't feel comfortable. I couldn't put on any of my suits this morning. And I'm sitting around there, and my wife told me yesterday, do you think you need to go to the store, buy you some clothes? I said, no, something's going to fit me. But that's just me. But even with me gaining the weight because all I do is sit in front of a refrigerator all day and the TV, can y'all tell my attitude's still good? I went into the hospital, and the guy that was next to me this last time, they cut half of his foot off. And every morning about 3:30, they would give him medication. And the medication would make him just start screaming and everything. And several nights they had to call the police and security up there to restrain him. But see, my attitude was when the doctor told me he was going to have to operate. The first time, I wasn't too happy with it. But the second time, and I'm really not happy about it now. And my wife said, well, everything that you talk about, she said, you have to make sure you practice it. So I had to go in knowing I'm getting ready to get operated on with a positive attitude. I wasn't happy about it, but I still maintained a positive attitude. And I went into Sam's the other night with my wife, and a guy saw a little shoe on my foot, and, man, your attitude's great. And I said, well, why walk around with it being bad? Why walk around like that? My goal each day is to be an uplifting encourager wherever I go. And if my attitude is bad, I can't do that, right? So we have to make sure our attitudes are good. When your attitude is good, like I said, your self-image is on a whole nother level. People want to gravitate towards you. They want to be around you all the time. And, if you're one of the people that don't have a positive attitude, I'll tell you something. Read a book for the next 21 days that's positive or motivational to you. Go to YouTube and look at some of the motivational speakers and do this for the next 21 days and watch how your attitude changes. And when your attitude changes, everybody around you is going to appreciate it. Now, I'm not saying you do it for everybody to appreciate you. I'm saying do it for yourself. But when you do it for self, everybody around you appreciates it. And then if you don't like the new person you've become, go back to who you were. Now, the only problem with that is nobody's going to like that you anymore. Can you imagine being just an encourager and being an uplifter for 21 straight days and everybody coming to you for an encouraging word, and then on day 22, don't call me no more? Can you imagine responding like that? I went to a funeral and somebody subscribed to my fan page on Facebook. And she said, Brother Meyer, what's the encouraging word for today? That's what people come to expect out of you when they see you. You know what I mean? And if you're negative all the time, that's what they're going to expect out of you, and they're going to avoid you like the plague. And so our attitudes a lot of times are reflections on our associations too. We like to hang with people that make us feel good, right? Hang out with people that's positive and want to make you feel good. Associate with people that are trying to go somewhere in life. I mean, that's a big deal. You want to hang out with people that are going to encourage you. Some of my associations, as I mentioned earlier, some of those guys, took some turns for the worse. And, I used to always hang out with my older cousins when I was younger. They always got me into trouble. Always. But you know what? It was fun while we were doing it. And so, we grew up and, our associations change at each level. How many of you left some people behind that you consider friends from middle school that you don't talk to anymore? Exactly. The same thing is going to happen when you leave high school. You're going to go to college and you're going to develop some new associations. And y'all notice I say associations, not friends. My dad always told me you can count all your true friends on one hand throughout your whole life. Because other than a party, you can't call too many people at 3, 4 in the morning and say, I need your help. The neighborhood I live in, most of the people are retired. And, Myron is always the one they want to talk to. I got a call the other night from one of my neighbors. She's 87. And she knows I'm limping around. Myron, can you come over? I'm not feeling good. And so I went over and the paramedics came over and she didn't go to the hospital. But I went over at 9:30 and at 12 o'clock I said, look, midnight. I said, can I go home now? But, she wanted somebody over there that was positive and could uplift her while she was experiencing some things that scared her health-wise. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And she felt like I was the one that could be that person. And so you want to be an uplifter. You want your associations to be good. A few years ago, I met a young man in this program from Cinco Ranch High School. And he's getting ready to graduate from Texas Tech in May. And he actually calls me all the time. We email one another. But, he's actually had me come up to Texas Tech a couple of times and talk up there to some organizations. And so, graduated high school with a 4.2 GPA, played baseball and all that. And so, that's an association I want to keep. Y'all understand? And while I was up there the last time, there was another young man I mentored over at Wayland Baptist University, which is about an hour away. And I drove over and had lunch with he and his girlfriend. Just because that was in the area. And I mean, I know an hour away is not in the area, but, compared to going to visiting from Houston, it's in the area. But, make sure your associations are good. And if you want to really test your associations, tell the people that are closest to you some of your grandest ideas and goals for the next 12 months and just sit back and listen to their responses. The ones that try to discourage you, you might want to consider getting rid of them. The ones that uplift and encourage you, you want to keep those around. Right now, I have really one guy from high school that I talk to on kind of a regular basis, and then I have one other guy from college that I talk to on a regular basis. And, the guy in college, I met him, and he had an attitude that he could whoop anybody. It didn't matter how big you were, he could whoop you. And one night we were going to a party on campus. I went to the University of Houston. We played football together. And his nickname is Mud. And Mud weighed about 200 pounds, and I weighed 195 at the time. And there was a guy out of Sweeney, Texas, Big Nate. And Big Nate was about 6'3", 280 pounds. And Big Nate's cousin was visiting one weekend. And, like I said, Mud believed he could whoop everybody. He used to back it up. And Big Nate wanted to test Mud in front of his cousin to show out. And Big Nate just kept messing with him. And Mud kept saying, Nate, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Nate ain't got time to fool with you tonight. Oh, Mud, you always talking about you can whoop everybody. What you gonna do? And before we knew it, Mud had Big Nate up over his head like this body slamming. And so, Mud usually bagged up what he said. So I automatically liked him because his attitude was, I can't be whooped. And how many of you are familiar with Vince Lombardi? Anybody? Great football coach from the 60s. Vince Lombardi said there's no place in his life for second place. Second place is a game for losers. Now, I'm not saying you're going to win at everything every time you do it, but you should be striving to win every time you participate in something. You know what I mean? Like y'all do have some competitions here, right? How many of you go into competition with the expectation to lose? One. And I think you lying to me. Why do you go in with the expectation to lose? Tell me why. Or you just want to raise your hand, huh? Okay. Okay. But in most cases, we don't go into any type of competition expecting to lose. You know, when I played ball, I always expected to win. When I built a project in woodshop, I always expected to win. When I go out to play the game of life, I expect to win. And that's the way you should approach life. You should approach life with the attitude that I'm going to win. Don't approach the attitude that you're going to lose. I was meeting a guy to talk business one day, and he said, let's meet at Burger King. And I normally get to wherever I'm going to be early, just in case traffic situation or whatever happened, in the case of right now, so I wouldn't be tired when y'all got up here from walking up the stairs, because the elevator was locked. And but I just started a conversation, which is what I normally do wherever I go. I start a conversation with somebody that's sitting there. And I met a young man, he had just graduated from college. And if I tell you, up until that point and to this day, I still haven't met a person that had been beat up so bad by life, that had no visions and goals for their life. And I mean, we're talking about a guy 22 years old. I mean, that hurt my heart that day, because I was just trying to be an encouraging, uplift, and just trying to share something that would brighten his spirits. And nothing I could do or say that day helped this guy. And I felt sorry for him. And you're going to meet people like that. You know, it still has to be an inside job regardless of what you or I could say or do for them. Motivation has to be an inside job. You know, it's like bathing. You know, you have to do it by yourself. You know, once we leave toddler status, for the most part, we have to start bathing ourselves. And so, you know, we think about that. And so we go through life with our associations and our attitudes and our expectations and our self-image. And most people, we all need to work on our self-image daily. Because if we're not working on moving forward with our self-image and attitude, we're automatically going back, because there's no such thing as standing still. Because everything is going past you if you're standing still, so you're going backwards, right? You know, so there's no standing still, it's only going forward or moving backward. And a lot of times we'll see people, they'll achieve a degree of success in life, and they'll sit there and they'll keep talking about what happened in the past. Have you met people like that? You know, they'll talk about, you know, it's like, a few years ago, I went to a good friend of mine's birthday party. And she and I have been good friends since the third grade. And she had a birthday party. And, you know, we've been out of high school for years. And guess what some of the guys at the party were still talking about? Hanging out, getting drunk. Come by, one of them told me, well, man, you know, we be over in my garage drinking. Well, first of all, I don't drink. Secondly, why am I going to come spend useless time sitting in the garage all day getting drunk when I could be doing something productive? You know, but they're still living in the old high school glory days. We have to move on past that. Revisit it every now and then, but move on. You know, we can't live in the past. Life is still passing us by. And that reminds me of something Benjamin Franklin said. Benjamin Franklin said, most people's mind dies at age 25, but they don't bury him until age 65, because they have to wait for the body to catch up to the brain. And so when we go through life, we'll see a lot of people talking about, you know, no dreams and goals. They get out of college for a few years, and, you know, they'll start working in a job or whatever, and then they'll just settle for that lifestyle. They won't try to improve anything else. And, you know, at age 15, 16, 17, most of us guys have dreams of a fast sports car. How many of you have seen the new 2014 Corvette? It's nice, ain't it? Oh, yeah. And I'm not a Corvette fan, but, oh, that's a beauty. I emailed it to everybody on my email list the other day. But I personally like Ferraris. And I worked with a guy some years ago, and I've always talked about wanting a Ferrari. And being able to go into the Ferrari dealership and pay cash for it. And he told me, say, man, why you want to spend that type of money on a car? It's just a car. Get your Acura NSX. It almost looks like a Ferrari, and you don't have to spend that much money. I say, why I want to buy something that looks like what I want? Why not do what it takes and put the things in place to go after what it is you really want? But see, that's somebody that was an association with me that was negative toward my dreams and goals. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And so we're going to encounter people like that throughout our lives. You know, people are going to talk about, you know, when you start talking about, if you tell somebody close to you, you know, my goal is to make $5 million a year. You know, the first thing you're going to hear out of a lot of people's mouth is, man, you can't make that type of money unless you're an athlete or you're an actor. Well, that's just not true. Society conditions us to be mediocre. Society conditions us to just live a settled for life. And we have to have our own dreams and goals. We have to find out what our purpose is. All of us were born with a purpose. It's just up to each one of us individually to find out what that purpose is. And so, I remember working in a job years ago, and when I went to the University of Houston, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. You know why? Because I looked at all the professions after a 4-year degree, and the chemical engineers paid the most at that time, outside of going being a doctor or an attorney. But that's more time. And a good a buddy of mine, he went to school to be a doctor while we were in school as well. And but that just wasn't what I wanted to do. And so once I started taking courses in college, I said, I hate math and science. And guess what chemistry is? Math and science. But I was looking for the money. And so after college, I went into different jobs, and I was just going through life unfulfilled. Y'all follow what I'm saying? Because I wasn't doing what I felt like I was put here to do. I wasn't serving my purpose. My purpose in life is I always wanted to be a positive impact in other people's lives. And I couldn't do that sitting inside 4 walls all day. I mean, in elementary school, my teacher made me go outside and dust erasers because I finished my work too fast, and she told my parents I made fun of the other kids. And I told my parents, I didn't know that was a punishment. When she told me I had to go outside and dust erasers, I worked faster because I hated being inside 4 walls. I can't stand being inside a building all day. I mean, you gonna let me outside? I'm gone. But I know a lot of people like being inside 4 walls. A lot of people like not having to interact with other people. Y'all know that? You just have some people that are introverts like that. And believe it or not, I was an introvert at one time, but I still like people. I've always been an athlete. I've been an athlete since I was 6 years old. And even though I don't play sports anymore, I'm still an athlete. You're never a former athlete. And so don't let others come in and negate your dreams and goals. Set you some big goals and dreams. How many of you have heard of most of you know about taking a cruise, to maybe the Bahamas or Cancun or Jamaica or Cozumel. Y'all have heard of those, right? But how many of you have heard of the World Cruise? Where one person, 6 months out of the year, you go to about 140 countries. You're gone 6 months out of the year. Now, if you're going to be on a ship for 6 months, you don't want to be in that little small cabin, right? About the size of your bathroom. You don't want to live like that for 6 months. But it's going to cost you about $80,000 per person to go on that trip in that small cabin. It's going to cost you upwards of $200,000 per person to go in a suite that's 2,000 square feet. And just to give you an idea of 2,000 square feet, that's the size of most of your homes. So can you imagine having a suite the size of your house with a 24-hour butler? Because you get a 24-hour butler on that suite. Now, if you're going to visit 140 countries, you need a shopping budget, don't you? A couple of $1,000s ain't going to be enough, wouldn't you agree? But see, we're not taught about these things because most of the people in our circles are not dreaming that big. Y'all follow that? When I was about 13 years old, there was a show used to come on TV called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And up until that point, when you live in a certain neighborhood, everybody's house is about the same size as yours. Everybody takes about the same type vacations and trips that you take. And, everybody that your family and your parents associate with basically in the same income range, right? I mean, people that make strong incomes or big incomes don't normally hang out with your family or you. And so, when I saw the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, I saw a guy that had a 3-story house with elevators in it. And I said, man, that's a little bit different than the way we live. And I wasn't putting my parents down, but it showed me at that point there's a different lifestyle out there. You know what I mean? And Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous equivalent would be what we would call MTV Cribs now. Because I still watch MTV Cribs. I don't even think it's a regular show anymore, but catch the reruns, I still watch it, even if I've seen it before. You know why? Because every time I think I'm dreaming big, somebody expands my thinking. And that's what we need to do. We need to have people around us that expand our thinking all the time. And so, if you're the smartest person in your group, you need to get you a new group. Because if you're the smartest person, that means nobody in the group is bringing anything to the table that can benefit you. You need to have people around you that have weaknesses in areas where you have strengths, and have strengths where you have weaknesses. That way you complement each other and y'all can uplift each other. But we don't go after our dreams and goals because a lot of times the people in our closer circles discourage us from doing so. We don't set goals for ourselves because we don't see anybody else setting goals. How many of you have some goals for your life? How many of you have them written down? See, you need to write them down. You need to visit them every day. The book I'm reading right now is The Success System That Never Fails by W. Clement Stone. And he says one of the things you need to do every day is repeat to yourself 50 times in the morning, do it now, and 50 times before you go to bed, do it now. And so a lot of us, who in here procrastinates? Who in here is lazy? We all have it in us at some point. I'm guilty of it as well. I wake up some days and I don't want to do nothing. And then something in me just say, you need to do something today. Do something moving toward the direction of your dreams and goals. But see, it's easy to go after our dreams and goals, but it's easier not to. And so, we don't look at it that way. Something's got to motivate us. We're either going to have negative motivation or we're going to have positive motivation. You have to determine, but both of them are going to move you toward action, toward your dreams and goals. You could grow up and you say, well, I'm going to do this because I don't want to live this way. And it can be a positive or a negative. You can say, this is what I saw all my life, so I don't want to live that way. That's a negative motivation. Or if you have some positive aspects of your life, you say, well, I'm going to do it this way because this is what I've seen in my life. Positivity all the time. And so we have to go after that. How many of you recognize whenever you see an eagle, it's always by itself? How many of you recognize you never seen a chicken by itself? How many of you recognize most of us are scratching with chickens? A lot of times we go through life scratching with chickens. But you never see an eagle around chickens. And the eagle is the number one bird in the bird kingdom, in the animal kingdom. An eagle, you'll always find an eagle by itself. But you always find chickens hanging together. And so you don't want to be scratching with the chickens. You want to be soaring with the eagles. You want to soar to new heights daily. Wake up in the morning and tell yourself it's going to be a great day. Because I wake up and I talk to myself every morning. And sometimes I tell people that's the only intelligent conversation I have all day. Have y'all tried talking to some people? Have you realized the light bulb is out? I go home some days and I'm like, man, I can't believe the way this person thinks. And it hurts a lot of time that people don't have the light bulb on. But I'll go out and I try to be an encourager. I wake up and I tell myself I have a positive self-image. I wake up and tell myself I believe in myself and my abilities. I wake up and tell myself I plan on being an uplifter and a benefit of somebody. Let me be an uplifter in some new person's life today. Let me be a blessing in some new person's life today. I set specific goals. I did it. My sisters and I went out over the Christmas holidays. Like I said, my baby sister lives in Seattle, so we went out for lunch. And I just did it on a whim. And I asked my sisters, what are your goals for this year? And I allowed them to talk first because my goals are kind of detailed. And when I started talking about my goals, I said, well, my goal is to lose 60 pounds in a healthy way. And the reason I said healthy way is because we can lose weight in unhealthy ways. We can get sick. Y'all know what I mean? And you don't want to lose weight because you're sick. You want to purpose yourself to lose weight, in a good way. I said one of my goals is to earn a minimum 6 times the amount of income that I've ever earned in my life up to this point in 2014. And I forget because I have a whole list of stuff, but I just shared a few with them. And my sister started laughing at them. And I said, well, what's funny? They said, man, we never heard anybody as detailed as you. But see, if we're going after our dreams and goals, we need to be detailed. If you want to make a certain income, you need to put down what that income is to you. Because you can't speak in generalization and say, I want to make a lot of money. Because a lot of money is not telling the brain what to focus on. Because if you only made $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year could be a lot of money. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So if you want to make $100,000 a year, and you think that's the only capacity you can believe in right now, tell yourself and write it down. I want to make $100,000 a year. If you want to make $5 million a year, write down, I want to make $5 million a year. But we're only going to write down our dreams and goals based on our self-image, where we see our capacity. And most of us have allowed others to limit our capacity. You know, my economics teacher in college and high school both told me, well, they pretty much didn't care for me, I'll put it that way. My economics teacher failed me in college because he said I challenged the system too much, and he told me I had to take his class again, stop challenging the system. My economics teacher in high school told me, you're going to be nothing better than a D student in college because you challenge the system too much. But I was educating myself outside of the school. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So I was questioning them on things that I was learning on the real economic system. Out of all the learning that we get in school, one thing America doesn't do for us is teach us our system of economics. And that's unfortunate. So we go through life knowing nothing about money. If you want to start learning about money, look up some of Robert Kiyosaki's books. He'll get that mind going in the right direction on thinking about money. But this time is a little bit shorter than the last time, so we got 4 minutes left.